Welcome to Rich Conversations. A couple of weeks ago, a friend and I went to the Field Museum together. As you're probably aware by now, that's my favorite place in Chicago. The Field Museum fuels a journey of discovery across time that enables a brighter future, rich in nature and culture. That's from their website. As we're walking around from exhibit to exhibit, something strikes us, and I think it's something I've noticed before and I've wondered about, but to actually have someone with you and exchanging a dialogue about it, it really brings it to consciousness. There's a large room with a giant mural of the Great Rift Valley in East Africa. Scientists believe that's where humans originated from. So they started there, or we, I should say, and spread out to all the other continents. Over 65 million years ago, dinosaurs died out, allowing mammals to rise up and kind of emerge. And through this, humans survived and thrived by combining our cognitive capacity more than any other animal, along with our ability to communicate and collaborate with other members of our species. Eventually, agriculture allowed us to just stay put, diversify our skill sets, and create culture. The Field Museum displays the culture and history of various peoples and civilizations throughout history. Specifically the Americas. You have South Pacific, Tibet, China, Africa, Egypt within Africa, all these different cultures. So as my friend and I are walking around from exhibit to exhibit, something we're really curious about is how all these different cultures are all isolated in different parts of the world, yet the same type of artifacts, history, and beliefs come up. There's some unique variants, but at the core, it seems like we're programmed all the same. Housing, food, tools, clothing, art. Every group of people figured this stuff out. And it's really interesting going around and say like the Polynesian culture and the Aztec culture, how similar they are in kind of their design and artwork. It's very fascinating. And when you look at especially the pottery of all these different civilizations, from the Chinese, the Greeks, the Mayans, etc., they all found that to be a very valuable thing to decorate the pottery and the art. And you find that while we're all over in different parts of the world and our environments and geography are different, humans are inspired a lot by the fauna and the flora, the plants and animals in the area. And it's like this deep relationship that we have with nature throughout history. I often feel like society today kind of looks down on our ancestors. Like they're not as progressed as what we are today. But without them, you and I would not be here. I mean, man, are we capable of like what they had to do to survive? I mean, life could just be brutal, right? But as a human being, I'm a human being after all, I reflect on my own life and emotions and the complexities of like what it means. Something we don't consider with ancient people is I bet they had a sense of humor. I bet there were a ton of funny people, because if you walk around the museum in these exhibits and look at the culture, you notice masks, from in Asia and Africa and the Americas. Like, people used masks to tell stories. Humans, we're storytellers. We love narrative. And I think we use these stories to create and shape our culture. Something we observe about these ancient cultures all over the world, right, is how similar they dress and organize themselves. Hierarchies emerge. And so people at the very top of these hierarchies throughout history, they dress themselves to distinguish themselves from the rest or show off their status. So fine clothing, jewelry, crowns, all these different things, right?
And something I often see today pointed out on, say, like social media is, people in the past, they just went out and they conquered other people for their resources and out of greed. But something I don't ever hear from my contemporaries, if we're critical of people that lived before that can't even respond to these things, what about our own being objective about ourselves? Like, when do we ever say, you know what? I'm good. I don't need anything else. I'm very happy with my life right now. And I'm in love with my life. We don't ever hear that, right? We still, is it in our human nature to want more and to want material things? Is there something deeper about that? And is the only way to override these instincts to believe in something higher, like values, have a higher value system?
What's also noticeable is that each of these cultures, they all are trying to imagine why they exist. And if there's something higher something out there, they're trying to figure this out. And we're still trying to figure it out, right? So we're probably not that far off from our ancestors, are we? Right? Maybe one day people will look at those of us who have lived in the early 21st century and think of us as primitive. The only thing we can do really is set aside our pride and think about the present as if it were the past. So many observations and questions. This is why I love museums. I find it just such a useful way to learn about the world, explore my relationship with it, and provoke my curiosity. I find it just so inspiring. And I would encourage you to find ways to fuel your own journey of discovery so that together we can create a brighter future.